Lots of neighbors saw what happened the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared, but somebody scared them into staying quiet. People showed up at their doors at 3:00 a.m., making threats. They got creepy phone calls telling them to shut up. Envelopes showed up in their mailboxes with no name on them. What they saw could have solved the whole case right away. There was a second suspect, a special-looking car, and Nancy screaming for help, but somebody really wanted their stories buried. Were the kidnappers trying to get rid of anyone who saw them? Or was the FBI controlling everything in the investigation? Subscribe now, because what the neighbors are finally saying changes everything we thought about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood in Tucson is a calm, regular place where houses are close together, so neighbors easily notice weird stuff, especially late at night when everything is quiet and dark. At least 3 houses on her street had a clear view of her place from their windows, and the people living there were awake during the important hours between midnight and 2:00 a.m., when a masked person showed up at her door and Nancy vanished. The first witness lives right across the street from Nancy's house in a 2-story home. Her upstairs bedroom window looks straight at Nancy's driveway, front door, and the street in front. This neighbor is a retired teacher in her 60s who has trouble sleeping, so she often stays up late reading in bed with her curtains a little open. She was awake and looking out her window exactly when strange things happened at Nancy's house. When Pima County Sheriff's deputies went door to door the morning Nancy was reported missing, this witness gave a very detailed first statement about the suspicious stuff she saw during the night. She told them exact times, what people looked like, and details about cars that should have given detectives super important clues right away. The second main witness lives 2 doors down from Nancy on the same side of the street. He's a guy who works night shifts and got home from work around 12:45 a.m. that night. He was taking things out of his car when he noticed weird activity near Nancy's house. His first statement to deputies talked about people and cars being in places where they didn't belong so late at night. The third witness is a young mom who lives right next door to Nancy. She was up feeding her baby around 1:30 a.m. when she heard noises from Nancy's property that scared her so much she almost called 911, but she decided not to, and now she really regrets that choice. All 3 neighbors gave helpful statements to police during the first investigation, sharing info that should have created fast leads and good descriptions of suspects. But just a few days after they talked, all 3 suddenly wouldn't answer more questions, refused to talk to news people covering Nancy's case, and stopped telling other worried neighbors what they saw. The quick change from helpful to silent happened in the same way for all of them, which makes it look like somebody put pressure on them to stay quiet. The scary campaign against the neighbors who saw things the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared started about 72 hours after police got the report. The ways they scared people were smart enough to frighten them into silence, but sneaky enough that it was hard to prove a real crime if anyone found out. The retired teacher across the street got the first scary contact on the 3rd night after Nancy went missing. She was getting ready for bed around 11 p.m. when she heard loud, angry knocking on her front door. She looked through the peephole and saw someone in dark clothes with a hood up, hiding their face. The person stood in the shadows, so her porch light didn't show them clearly. When she didn't open the door, the knocking kept going for several minutes before the person finally left. Her Ring doorbell camera, which should have recorded a clear video of the visitor, strangely stopped working that night and only showed static during the exact time the person was there. The next morning, she found an envelope in her mailbox with no return address. Inside was one piece of paper with a typed message. "You didn't see anything. Keep your mouth shut about what you think you saw, or you'll regret it." The letter had no name, no address to send back to, and later tests showed it was printed on normal office paper from a regular printer that's impossible to trace. The shift worker 2 doors down got even scarier treatment. He started getting phone calls on his cell from blocked numbers. The caller would stay silent for a few seconds, then hang up. These calls came at weird times like 2:00 a.m. or 4:00 a.m. to mess with his sleep and make him nervous. On the 5th day after Nancy disappeared, he found all his car tires slashed in his driveway overnight. No other cars on the street got touched, so it was clearly done on purpose to scare him. When he checked his own security camera, it showed someone in dark clothes walking up to his car around 3:00 a.m. But the video was blurry, and the person's face was hidden by a ski mask and hoodie. The young mom next door got what might be the worst threat. She found a note stuck under her baby's car seat in her car, which means someone went into her vehicle while it was parked in her driveway and put the message right where she would see it while taking care of her baby. That felt like a huge violation, because someone got close to her child just to leave a threat. It scared her deeply. FBI agents working on the Nancy Guthrie case talked a lot with these key neighbor witnesses in the first 48 hours after she disappeared. They took long, detailed statements that lasted hours and asked for every tiny detail the witnesses could remember. These weren't quick chats. They were serious question sessions where agents pushed for exact times, what people looked like, car info, and what happened step by step. The retired teacher across the street spent more than 3 hours with FBI agents on the 2nd day, going over everything minute by minute. She even drew pictures by hand, showing where cars and people were. Agents asked her to guess heights and weights, describe clothes carefully, and say which way cars went when they left. All that detailed asking showed the FBI thought her story was really important for solving the case. But after getting all this good information, agents told her not to talk about what she saw with anyone. Not news people, not other neighbors, not even family outside her house. They said it was to keep the investigation safe, explaining that if word got out too soon, suspects might run away or get rid of proof. That sounded okay at first, but it meant important details that could have brought in more tips from the public were kept secret on purpose. The shift worker got the same instructions after his FBI talk. Agents told him straight up that talking about what he saw could ruin the investigation and put Nancy Guthrie's life in danger. They made it sound like if he spoke and something bad happened to Nancy, it would be his fault. That put huge pressure on him to stay quiet, even when he felt the info should be out there. The young mom was told her story was part of a careful plan and that telling what she heard could warn suspects that police were getting close. FBI agents stressed that staying patient and quiet was the best way to get Nancy home safe. Basically, all 3 witnesses got told by law enforcement to keep quiet, using reasons that sounded fair, but really kept important facts away from the public. And maybe from other ways detectives could have found Nancy quicker. The biggest shocking detail that neighbors were scared and pushed not to tell is about a special car that was parked near Nancy Guthrie's home with its lights off during the exact time she disappeared. Several witnesses saw the same car on their own and described it the same way. If that info had gone public in the first few days, it should have helped find suspects fast. The retired teacher across the street said the car was a dark-colored SUV, maybe black or navy blue. It pulled up on the street around 12:30 a.m. and parked about 3 houses away from Nancy's place. What made it suspicious was that it parked with headlights off, like the driver didn't want anyone to notice, and it stayed there for over an hour. She noticed the SUV had special things like roof racks and really dark back window tint that was darker than normal. Most important, she caught a quick look at part of the license plate when a passing car's lights hit it. She clearly saw the first 3 characters before it got dark again. Just that partial plate could have limited suspects to only a few cars registered around Tucson. The shift worker, who got home around 12:45 a.m., saw the same SUV and added more details. He noticed it because it was parked in a spot people almost never use, because it's near a fire hydrant. While he was unloading his car, he saw the driver's door open for a second and the inside light come on. Someone was sitting in the driver's seat, but he couldn't see the face well from where he was. He did see the person was wearing gloves and looking down at something glowing like a phone or screen. He also noticed the car had an out-of-state license plate frame, but it was too dark to tell which state. Most important, when detectives later checked the partial plate in car records, it supposedly matched an SUV owned by someone connected to either the Guthrie family or the Tucson neighborhood where Nancy lived. That connection is why the FBI wanted the car info kept secret. Putting it out publicly would have pointed right to a person of interest before detectives finished building their case, and that person might run or destroy proof. While Nancy Guthrie's doorbell camera caught video of one masked person messing with the camera at her front door, neighbor witnesses saw a second person working near her garage and back door at the same time. That proves it was a planned job with more than one person. The young mom next door had the best view of this second suspect because her baby's room window looks right at the side of Nancy's house, where the garage and back door are. While feeding her baby around 1:30 a.m., she saw a figure moving along the side of Nancy's house, staying close to the wall and avoiding the motion sensor lights on purpose. This second person was dressed different from the masked one on the doorbell video. Instead of all black with a ski mask, this one wore a dark hooded sweatshirt and jeans with the hood up to hide their face. The witness thought this person was shorter and thinner than the one at the front door, maybe a woman or a smaller man. What made this really important was the timing and how it fit together. She saw this second person get to Nancy's property around 1:15 a.m., about 10 minutes before the masked one showed up at the front door, according to the doorbell camera time. That means the second person might have gone in the back door first, maybe unlocking it or turning off alarms from inside, then let the masked partner come in the front after the camera was off. The witness saw this second person walk straight to the back door, try the handle, then disappear around the corner of the house. About 5 minutes later, she saw what looked like the same person near the garage. At one point, the person seemed to be talking on a phone or radio, like they were working with someone else. The shift worker also got a quick look at what he thinks was this second suspect. Around 1:40 a.m., while he was still outside unloading, he saw someone hurry from Nancy's property toward the dark SUV parked down the street. The person looked nervous, checking around, and was carrying what looked like a bag or bundle. He couldn't see exactly what was in it because of the dark and distance, but the way they moved made it seem heavy or hard to carry. After a week of getting scared by threats and also pressure from law enforcement to stay quiet, the retired teacher across the street bravely decided to tell her full story in public about what she saw the night Nancy Guthrie disappeared. She did it because it hurt too much to know an 84-year-old woman was missing and may be in danger while she had info that could help find her. The guilt of staying quiet while Nancy might be suffering became worse than her fear of what would happen if she spoke. The witness reached out to a local TV station that was covering Nancy's case a lot and set up an on-camera interview. She told everything she saw that night, even though she had received threats and the FBI told her to stay quiet. Her story was huge and right away changed how the investigation was going By confirming things law enforcement had been keeping back. She described everything clearly from her bedroom window starting around 12:30 a.m. when the dark SUV showed up and parked in a suspicious way on her street. She told about seeing the masked person go to Nancy's front door soon after 1:00 a.m. She watched through binoculars as the person messed with something by the door, which she later figured out was the doorbell camera. The most shocking part, she said she heard Nancy Guthrie screaming from inside the house around 1:25 a.m. Horrible, scary screams that suddenly got quiet, like someone gagged her or held her down. The witness said she should have called 911 the second she heard those screams, but she waited, not sure if it was really an emergency or maybe just a TV or something. By the time she decided to call, the screams stopped, and she talked herself into thinking she overreacted. That choice bothers her all the time. She also said she saw lights moving inside Nancy's house for a long time, at least 45 minutes by her guess, which means the bad guys spent a lot of time inside. She saw flashlight beams going from room to room, sometimes stopping in one spot for minutes before moving. Around 2:15 a.m., she saw two people, which backs up the idea of more than one suspect, carrying something big and heavy from the back door area toward the dark SUV parked down the street. The thing was wrapped in what looked like a blanket or tarp, and both people struggled with how heavy it was, which made her think they were carrying a person. The ways witnesses got scared in Nancy Guthrie's case match a creepy pattern seen in big cases where controlling what people know becomes just as important to some people as actually solving the crime. The organized way to threats happened to several witnesses, shows this wasn't random. It was a planned effort to shut up anyone who could name suspects or show uncomfortable facts about that night. Experts who study criminal justice say the scare tactics show real planning and smarts. The threats started 72 hours after Nancy disappeared instead of right away, which means the bad guys needed time to figure out which neighbors really saw things and talked to police. That suggests either someone got inside info from law enforcement about who was interviewed, or the people doing the scaring watched the neighborhood themselves to see who police talked to for a long time. They used different scare methods on each witness too, which shows smart planning. The retired teacher got anonymous letters. The shift worker got his car damaged and creepy calls. The young mom got the worst one. Someone went near her baby to leave a threat. Each way was picked to hit what scared that person most, so they would definitely stay quiet. But one big question is still out there. Who was really behind these scare tactics? There are two main ideas, and both are upsetting. The first idea is that the kidnapper or kidnappers did the witness scaring themselves to get rid of anyone who could identify them and give proof that leads to catching them. This makes sense because the threats were done in a criminal smart way, and they clearly wanted witnesses gone. If the kidnapper knew people in the neighborhood or had ways to learn about the investigation, they could find and target witnesses one by one. The second idea is more worrying, that law enforcement either did the scaring or helped it happen as part of their plan. Even though FBI agents officially told witnesses not to talk publicly, using normal reasons about keeping the case safe, some experts think the worst scare tactics might have been quietly okayed to keep info locked down while detectives built a case against certain people. This idea gets support because even though several witnesses told local police about the threats, police never Ali looked into the scare campaign hard, and no one got arrested for messing with witnesses. The most annoying part of the whole witness thing in Nancy Guthrie's disappearance is that at least two neighbors have security camera video from that night showing angles and stuff that Nancy's own doorbell camera didn't catch. But they still refuse to share that video publicly, even though Nancy's family begged for it and news people pushed hard. The shift worker 2 doors down has a full home security setup with several cameras that cover his driveway, front yard, and a side view that catches part of the street, including where the suspicious SUV was parked. His video would show the car arriving and leaving, maybe catch license plates clearly, and could even show faces of people getting in or out if they walked through lit areas. When local news people asked him for the video, he first said he would look at it and share useful parts, but then he suddenly said no after what he called talks with authorities, and he turned down every request after that. He said the FBI told him the video was evidence in an active case and couldn't go public without hurting the investigation. Another neighbor right next to Nancy's property has a Ring doorbell system that would have caught sound and maybe video of stuff at Nancy's back door and garage, where the second suspect was seen. That video is extra important because it might have clear audio of the screams the retired teacher heard, which would prove Nancy was in real trouble, and maybe catch the bad guys' voices. But this neighbor won't give the video to news people or even say publicly if their camera was working that night. People close to the case say FBI agents visited this neighbor and strongly told them not to share any recordings publicly, saying that letting it out too soon could put Nancy in danger if she was being held and the kidnappers were watching the news. Keeping neighbors' security videos secret like this brings up serious questions about how law enforcement is handling this case. Protecting the case is important, but hiding possibly life-saving video from the public for over a week, while an 84-year-old's life was at risk, seems to care more about winning in court later than saving her right away. The video might have pictures that let someone in the area recognize suspects or cars fast, which could lead to finding Nancy in hours instead of days. Scaring witnesses and hiding evidence wasted important time in finding Nancy Guthrie while she was still alive. The FBI knew about the second suspect, the SUV, and Nancy's screams from the very first day, but they kept it all secret. The man held south of Tucson might match what witnesses described before they got silenced, but a whole week got lost. Every hour counts for an 84-year-old who doesn't have her medicines. The neighbor videos still being held back could name suspects right now. Nancy is still missing. The hidden information might be the only thing that can save her life. Time has run out for keeping secrets.